Welcome back. Right out of the gate, let me ask you a strange question. How do you eat an elephant? And this is not a joke. It's not a riddle. It's a real question. How do you do something that big? Something overwhelming that feels almost impossible to ever begin? The answer is quite simple. One bite at a time. It's kind of a fact that biggest goals, the ones that matter the most, they actually feel the hardest to even start. And if you break down the real reason you feel overwhelmed, it's not because you're incapable. It's because you're trying to take on the entire elephant or quote at once. Today, we're going to talk about chunking. Like I said, one bite at a time. Simple, but not easy. Because most people, they just can't take one bite at a time. They stand there staring at the entire elephant and convince themselves this is too much. The truth is, overwhelm doesn't come from the size of the task. It comes from how you're looking at it. And you probably felt this before. A big goal, a big project, a big life change. And instead of action, you feel pressure. Instead of clarity, you feel confusion. And instead of movement, you feel stuck. So what you do, and I've done this, you delay, you distract, you scroll, you tell yourself, I'll start tomorrow. But the truth is, tomorrow will never come. And even if it did, the elephant would still be there. You see, most people don't fail because they can't. They fail because they never, ever start. See, what we're talking about is chunking. Breaking down a task into small, bite-sized chunks to prevent overwhelm. And it's funny, I learned this in the most interesting way. There was a time in my life when I was an industrial first aid attendant. I was in my early to mid 20s. And I learned this in a different environment. I was working on a construction site. Early mornings, long days, big project, dust, dirt, shovels, compactors. But I remember looking at parts of this job and thinking, there's no way this gets done. Massive structures, heavy materials, and so many moving parts. And yet, day by day, piece by piece, it got built. Not all at once, not one hectic moment, but in steps. And this was incredibly evident when we were building the foundation. So if you understand, the base of the building is the foundation. So they dig down and they put concrete walls around the outside. And then they put in some plumbing and stuff underneath. And then we put in gravel and we pack it in. And that's in order to pour the base level of concrete. But the truth is, you have to do a really good job of compacting. And then you have to grade it. And when they say grade, you need your concrete base to be about 4.5 inches thick, about the width of a 2x4. Now, these foundations were for fourplexes. So 4 living units side by side. So you can imagine they were pretty big. And when you look at it, it's an overwhelming task. So myself, I was working on one fourplex and I had 2 young laborers working on another one. And by the end of the first day, I had one full one done and the 2 of them had half a one done. So the supervisor came over and asked me, "Can you talk to those guys?" And so the next day, I started by watching what they're doing. And they're getting up, they're complaining, "Look at all this work we have to do. This sucks." And they're going on and on and on. And if there's one thing I've learned about when you have a big task, if you start complaining about it, it's not going to help. So the first advice I gave them was, guys, complaining about it's not going to help. It's not going to make it go any better. So that was the first piece of advice. The second thing I noticed is they were working from the middle of this project out. And I told them, like, why are you starting there? It's like, well, we got to start somewhere. And it's like, it seemed like the best place to start. I said, "Do you want some advice?" And they said, "Okay." We went to the one side, the furthest over side. I took this big section that needed to be done. And I drew a line across the middle and across. So we broke it into 4 sections. And I said, just focus on this one section first. And when you get that, move to the next, and to the next, and to the next. And it's interesting, if you can take any task, anything you have to do in this life, and you can take a look at it and break it into pieces that are not overwhelming, you get little wins every time you complete a piece and you feel like you're accomplishing something. And all this gives you energy. So no matter what, it doesn't have to be a construction site. No matter what you're taking on in this life, there's a reason why when they say when you're setting goals, you can start with small, you can break it down into small accomplishable goals, little tiny like check mark goals. So if you broke it into 4, these are the 4 major goals for this section. And these are 3 goals that will lead up to that major goal. And you break it up like that. And you just focus on the one thing you need to focus on right now. And you have the rest. You have an understanding that you'll get to the next as you go. And there's this interesting thing that happens. So that second day after I gave these guys advice, I still got one done myself. But they also got a full one done. But between the 2 of them, which was, doubled their production. And that's the interesting thing. In life, if you break it down into smaller pieces, it doesn't make it go slower, it makes it go faster. See, nobody builds something in one move. They build it in 1,000 small little ones. So let's think about it. Why does our brain resist this? And here's what most people don't understand. Your brain is not designed to handle huge. Your brain is designed to handle next. Have you ever heard that? Now, our senses, everything can take in, say, let's for argument's sake, say it's like 3 million bits of information a second, just for argument's sake. I don't know what the exact number is, but it's very large. But the truth is, we can only consciously perceive about 100,000 of that 3 million. It's not exactly about the brain. It's more about what we can consciously perceive. And if something is too big, it's overwhelming for our conscience. And that's why the brain or the consciousness would rather deal with what's next than the whole. So you think about it when you break down, when you look at an entire goal, like say somebody was saying, okay, right now it's 2026, 2028 Olympics, that's my goal. And say you're well off the mark that would get you standard. That's going to seem overwhelming. But what if you broke it down that like this year is all about laying down a base, getting consistent, not worrying about times, getting out there, experiencing racing. You break it down into small pieces. And then you work on all the little pieces. So you look at nutrition, you look at therapy, you look at strength, you look at coaching, you look at mental performance coaching, you look at mental health coaching. You design training blocks with rest built in afterwards, and like always riding the edge and then pushing it a little bit and then pulling back. And you design goals not to get you to the standard time because the window's not open anyway, but goals to hit really good times so you have the opportunity to get into bigger races. Because honestly, when you look at the big goal, your brain gets overwhelmed and your brain's going to go into protection mode. It's going to think this is too much. It's too risky. It's overwhelming. I can't do it. And it'll shut down. But when you shrink the focus into what I need to do right now, something changes. Clarity creates confidence, and clarity comes when you take on smaller tasks or steps. So here's what we're calling it. We're calling it chunking, the chunking method. And let's make this real. Here's how you actually do this. Step one, first one, you define the elephant. What is your elephant? What do you want to do? Maybe you want to go back to school for something. Maybe you want to go to the Olympics. Maybe you want to qualify. Maybe you want to turn pro. Maybe you want to get in shape and start running. So you get really clear on what the big thing is. And be honest. Is it getting in shape? Is it starting a business? Is it healing for something? Is it changing your life direction? Name it. Clearly name it. Almost like the massive goal. And if you're willing to take some advice from me, when you create a goal, don't create I want this or I will have this. If you really want to create a big goal, put it in the positive, put it in the real so it exists. And when I create a goal, I say on or before the date, I qualified. So, and that's because if your goal is, I want to qualify for the Olympics, well, you're asking for a state of wanting something. And I guarantee for the most part, unless you're completely depressed, you will be at the end of that goal in a state of wanting to qualify for the Olympics. So you will succeed that goal, but you didn't define your goal right. Because it's not that you want to. It's on or before X date, I qualified for the Olympics, or I have qualified for the Olympics. The universe doesn't really hear knots. Sometimes I hear people say, my goal is to not get injured. And I'm like, how about we change that a little bit? My goal is to stay healthy. My goal is to get stronger, get faster, something like that. So the second thing, just like a big goal, just get basic. We're going to cut it into pieces, and not general pieces, but specific, not get healthy. But so in the event we're getting into shape, we're going to create little goals. Like I'm going to walk 10 minutes each day. I'm going to drink 2 liters of water today, and I'm going to do one workout a week. XYZ. And it's not like you're expecting to be in shape the first week, but you're going to start cutting off little pieces of the elephant. Because if the step feels overwhelming, it's still too big. There was a time when I was really, really out of shape and I wanted to be healthier. It's not a quantifiable goal if you say healthier, but that's where I was. And I kept on wanting and wanting and wanting. And one day I decided it was time to start doing something. And I was so out of shape, I felt like most of what I probably couldn't run around a block. So I said, well, if I can't run, then I'm going to walk one block. Just walk one block. Just one block. And I did. I got up, I walked around the block, and I came home. And the next night I did the same. And I kept on doing the same until I could walk 2 blocks, till I could walk 3 blocks, till I could walk. And eventually I ran a block and 2 blocks and so on. But you got to start with a step that doesn't feel overwhelming, something that you can start chalking up wins. And step 3, you only focus on the next bite. Think about it. Like you want to climb this massive mountain right off in the distance. Are you going to focus on that mountain range? I mean, you want to be able to see it and understand it. So you want it written down so you're not going to forget it. But as you're moving towards that mountain range, you're going to have valleys, hills, and small mountains to climb. So don't focus on the whole journey. Don't focus on the result. Don't be results. It's like in athletics, they talk about process goals as compared to outcome goals. Don't focus on the outcome. Focus on the process. Just the next action. That's all you have to do. You don't need to be overwhelmed with the whole task. You just keep on stacking days. Because momentum doesn't come from thinking. It comes from doing, right? Yeah. Motivation doesn't come before you start. You start and then the motivation comes. And as you're motivated and you keep on moving, that's where momentum comes from. Step 4, stack the wins. Stack them. Small actions repeated become identity. When there was another time in life when I was really trying to get healthy. And I took on doing hot yoga, 90-minute classes every single day for 30 days. And I knew I needed to feel a win every day. So I had a little calendar, and this seems strange, but I had a stickers. And every day I got through my class, I opened the book and I put a sticker in. And it seems kind of corny, but it was very motivating. And this is why if you take your steps and you write them down and then you check them off, that's stacking a win. And the more wins you get, the more you know you're capable of, and then you'll take on bigger things. See, you don't become confident before you act. You become confident because you acted. And then there's the emotional build. Like, why do we keep stopping? Because like I've experienced this so many of my times in my life, countless times where I start moving in a direction and I probably took on too much and I petered out and I stop and I quit. So let's be honest. Starting isn't the only problem. Stopping is. You start strong. Life happens. You miss a day. You lose momentum and then you feel like you failed and you quit. But here's the truth. You didn't fail. You just broke the rhythm. And rhythm, you can rebuild it. I remember a course I did and they talked about integrity, how important integrity is. And they said integrity was being your word, right? So if you really, really wanted to accomplish great things, you needed to build great integrity. So you would practice like that your word is law. So when you say you're going to do something, you do it by that time. But really, these people were really great because they also told you what happens when you miss the mark. Because sometimes things happen and get in the way, and you're not actually your word in the time you're supposed to be your word, or you said you would be the word. And then a lot of people feel like I'm failing. And it's not, they said it's not a case of being wrong or bad. It's just a case of being out integrity. And all you have to do is gain your integrity back. And how do you do that? You acknowledge first off, if it's for, like you said, you were going to do something for a person or for yourself. You acknowledge first off, I said I was going to do this by this time, and I have not done this. I am out integrity. You can count on me to get this done by X date, and then you do it. So if you miss your rhythm, if you're out integrity, it's not bad or wrong. It's just out integrity. It's just out rhythm. You just have to restart and recreate the rhythm. And how many times? As many times as it takes. There's no number. Just keep on starting again. Because this kind of breakthrough will shift your identity. And this is the shift. You stop identifying as someone who's trying to do something too big. And you become someone who executes small things consistently. Because the truth is, it's not about the ability to do big things. True success will come from executing small things consistently and having them stack. And that's it. That's the secret. Not intensity, consistency. Not perfection, progress. Because big lives are built by people who respect small actions. So here's the grounding idea for you. And it's basically the forest through the trees. And you've heard the phrase, I can't see the forest through the trees. But here's the plot twist. Most people are doing the opposite. They're staring at an entire forest and ignoring the tree right in front of them. All you got to do is blur out everything. Have you ever seen like a really high quality camera taking a high quality sports photo? And the subject of the photo may be a runner running or even as a portrait. And you see that person completely crystal clear and everything else is faded out. And it's not that it doesn't exist. It's just we are focusing on that one subject right now. Because the only way through this forest is a single tree at a time. So here's the question. What is your elephant? And more importantly, almost the most important thing is what is your next bite? your first bite, your small bite. And not tomorrow, not someday, but now, immediately after you shut this off. Write down your elephant and write down your first step, your first bite. Because your life doesn't change when you finish the elephant. It actually changes the moment you take the first bite. Because you don't need to see the whole path. You just need to take the next step. I challenge you to take it. Thank you for hanging out with me again. Keep on eating your elephant, one bite at a time. Keep on building your own inner advocate.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Your Inner Advocate, a podcast by Kimen Petersen, formerly Conversations with Kimen. If you found value in today's episode, please follow, like, and share the podcast with someone who you think may benefit from it. You can listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and connect on Instagram at your_inner_advocate. Until next time, keep listening to and developing your inner advocate.